Hello and thanks for joining us. Welcome to Max UFO News.
And welcome back to Max UFO News. We're starting this last show of the season by taking a look at a new initiative set up by Mr. Gary Heseltine. Like so many of us within UFO research, Gary Heseltine's passion for the subject was born from his own sighting as a teenager. Later, and aged about 18, Gary joined the British UFO Research Association and got actively involved organizing a local UFO event. Gary was then to spend 16 years focusing on both his career and family. Then one day Gary spotted UFO magazine. His interest in the subject quickly resurfaced. It was then that he found himself assessing all material and data he came across through the eyes of an experienced police officer. Wanting to contribute to the field, in 2002 Gary launched his database, Police Report UFO Sightings, or PRUFUS for short. In 2010 Gary was presented with the PRG Disclosure Award in Washington, D.C. by Steve Bassett, and in 2012 he was given the Exopolitics Great Britain Award. After 18 years as a detective constable in March of 2013, Gary retired from his 24-year career in the police force. He then launched the UFO Truth-e-zine. Now what many of you may not know is that Gary has pledged to ring-fence 1/3 of all finances raised through monthly and yearly subscriptions for UFO causes. Initially, monies raised via subscriptions will be used as a financial mechanism to create a self-sustaining financial platform for British ufology. Something that has never been firmly in place before. Ring-fenced money that is raised through subscriptions will help support conferences, speaker accommodation and the like. However, as the magazine grows, Gary believes that this mechanism has the potential to be able to pay monies to other UFO ventures, in the form of grants. I spoke to Gary this week and asked him what inspires him to continue his hard work within the field. He replied, quote, "After my childhood sightings and my work with police officers in the UK, I feel compelled to try and change people's perceptions about the subject." Unquote. Here's a look at the man himself, giving testimony at last year's citizen hearing on disclosure.
Right, my name is Gary Heseltine, and I am a recently retired police detective in England, having served almost 24 years with the British Transport Police. For the majority of that time, for 20 years, I was a detective. I was dealing at the sharp end of evidential matters. I've been involved in murder, manslaughter, rape, etc., etc. I come to this subject on an evidential basis, and I think that is very necessary in this field. I am here principally to speak on behalf of police officers worldwide who have witnessed UFOs, but I would also like to say that I'm also one of the principal investigators of the Rendlesham Forest incident that my colleague Peter has alluded to, along with Linda Moulton Howe. I would consider as the three principal investigators of this incident. We're all doing very good work on it. For the last 5 years I have worked with Colonel Charles Holt, the man who wrote the Holt Memorandum, the Deputy Base Commander of what was absolutely a nuclear facility. And let me back that up by saying that for 3 years of my 6 years in the Royal Air Force, between 1983 and 1989, I served on 2 nuclear bases doing exactly the same job as what those US Air Force policemen did. And the base at Bentwaters is identical to the base that RAF Labrook in West Germany where I worked. So let's cut the crap. This is a nuclear issue. Right. In January 2002, moving to my police background, I created the Police Reporting UFO Sightings Database. It's commonly referred to as the Proof Force Police Database. You have an information pack with that information. It's basically there for UK police officers to record on and off-duty police sightings. Believe me, over the 11 years of my research, nothing will surprise me what anybody says in this field about what they report. It is truly extraordinary. When I began my research 11 years ago into British police officers, there were approximately 6 cases involving 10 officers. 11 years later, I now have over 425 cases involving over 940 British police officers. This is a significant amount, in my opinion. These sightings have taken place the length and breadth of Britain and have been reported at all times of the day. Whilst I'm not a big lover of statistics because they can be manipulated, I would say that the key statistic for me is that over 70% of these cases are multiple witness officer cases. Therefore, it is significant corroboration to a sighting event. Again, I look at this case through evidential eyes. In one particular case, there is in excess of 24 police officers that were involved in tracking at least one object over 6 counties of Britain on the night of March the 30th, 31st, 1993. This is referred to as the Cosford incident. Many police officers have observed structured craft of huge size and proportions in close proximity to their ground positions. These craft range in shape and size and dimensions from many tens of feet to many hundreds of feet in size. Many of the police cases on the database, in my opinion, are truly extraordinary. For example, in October 1984, near RAF Northolt in Middlesex, a silent black triangular object was seen at low altitude by 2 uniformed police officers on mobile patrol, which they described as being the size of 3 football fields. When I sought to clarify this description of size, they said when they saw it, it was above 3 football fields. So I think that's a pretty good representation of size. This report was made by Police Constable Robin Perry of the Metropolitan Police. On another occasion, in October 1978, 3 uniformed police officers in a rural area of Buckinghamshire observed a huge object, which they described as a size of a football field, which suddenly and silently materialized in front of them in the blink of an eye and at relative close proximity to their position. However, there were also a number of smaller objects flying around the large main object, akin to a mothership kind of scenario, and the larger object then projected a beam down to the ground, which was the width of the football field, which then traversed the ground as if scanning the terrain for several minutes. They watched for this event for approximately 5 minutes before suddenly it went off and dematerialized in the blink of an eye. 1 second it was there, and then it was gone. And this has been described as like switching on a light bulb on and off. Not something that I think our stealth capability is quite capable of yet. The source of that report is the Police Constable Eric Raymond, retired of the Thames Valley Police. Many officers have seen objects that appear to move in ways that seem to defy laws of known physics and aerodynamics. For example, in May 1981 and 1982, 2 firearms officers were involved in the close protection of what was then a very prominent Conservative minister in a rural location in North Yorkshire. At approximately 5:30 hours in the morning, as they were walking in the grounds of this residence, they suddenly became aware that the sunshine had darkened, the sky had darkened. When they looked up to establish the cause of that, they were amazed to see a huge, dark, purple, cylindrical object with a pronounced undercarriage underneath it that was described as being the length of a football field, a common figure in all of this, and hovering silently above the house at an altitude of only 200 to 300 feet, which is extremely close. The object remained motionless, silent, above the house for 5 to 10 minutes before it suddenly and silently accelerated in the blink of an eye out to the horizon, where it stopped in an instant for a few seconds and then disappeared towards the horizon and out of sight. The source of this report is Police Sergeant retired John Pawson of the North Yorkshire Police. In my introduction, I mentioned that I would refer to police officer sightings worldwide, and in the time permitted I would like to draw your attention to just two particular countries where numerous police officer sightings have taken place. Namely, I refer to the United States and Belgium. Many of the US cases are simply outstanding, and I will highlight just two of them. Just after midnight on the 14th of December 1994, 15 police officers of Trumbull County, Ohio, observed multiple circular UFOs from different geographical positions. In one particular sighting, the engine of the police vehicle driven by Sergeant Toby Malaro suddenly cut out. When he got out of the vehicle, he looked up and a UFO was directly above him, shining a beam down. As soon as the object moved away, his engine restarted and he attempted a short pursuit. On the 5th of January 2000 in Illinois, multiple police officers observed a large triangular craft that was witnessed from many geographical positions and was sometimes seen at close proximity to their ground locations. Broadly speaking, all the officers involved in both of these incidents described craft that moved in silence, which were able to make incredibly high-speed manoeuvres, unlike that of any known aircraft. Finally, in the skies above Belgium between 1989 and 1991, hundreds of police officers observed large triangular objects all over the country. Many of these sightings involve multiple police officer witnesses and were frequently seen at close proximity to their ground locations. In addition, many of these sightings were confirmed on multiple civilian radar and multiple military radar facilities. In the allotted 10 minutes given to brief you, which I'm trying to keep to, I would like to say on behalf of police officers worldwide that they are seeing actual structured craft, physical in nature, and which move in ways that they have never seen before or since. In closing, I urge this panel to accept their collective testimonies as genuine and that they offer compelling circumstantial evidence that many of these sightings represent extraordinary, unknown, structured craft moving in the Earth's airspace. In closing, and on a personal note, I believe that the time is now to lift the veil of secrecy that has shrouded this subject for over 60 years, and the subject of UFOs should now be openly accepted in the mainstream media as being real in nature, and which in turn would allow people to come forward from all walks, all life, all countries, without the fear of ridicule and a risk to their careers. As a police detective of many years' service, I believe that the collective testimonial, documentary and physical evidence obtained in over 60 years of UFO research overwhelmingly confirms that some, and I repeat the word some, UFO sightings do represent an ongoing extraterrestrial engagement with planet Earth. I am deeply honoured to be here before you today, and thanks Steve Bessett so much. But I also thank you, the panel, for being courageous in coming forward at probably some cost to yourselves in your reputation. But you are, and whether the mainstream media are here or not, this is historic, and it will be looked back as an historic event, and you will be congratulated in time for your participation. Thank you.
All citizen hearing on disclosure DVD box sets were delivered to the House and Senate. Direct contact with congressional offices began on December 1st. Emphasis will be on members of key committees and members referred to PRG by constituents. The key committees are House Intelligence, Science, Space and Technology, Homeland Security, Oversight and Governmental Reform, Senate, Intelligence, Commerce, Science and Transportation, Homeland Security, and Governmental Affairs. The social media campaign to ensure the DVD box sets are reviewed by congressional staff is moving forward rapidly. The number of tweets with hashtag disclosure at the time of this episode being produced was 419,540. Due to the presidential immigration directive and the pending events in Missouri, most congressional staffers were still in town when the CHI was well covered in the Washington Times on Sunday and Monday, November the 23rd and 24th. Within one of the Washington Times articles, Steve Bassett was quoted as saying, "This will be a concentrated 3-month effort accompanied by substantial media coverage. If congressional hearings are held, it is quite likely the truth embargo will collapse," unquote. Mac recently contacted Mr. Bassett to clarify the situation and asked, "Should the hearings take place and indeed this scenario is played out, would you continue to push for political disclosure?" Mr. Bassett replied, "If you mean, will PRG continue to advocate in the post-disclosure world? Yes. There will be plenty to advocate for related to disclosure." Mac then asked, "Should hearings go ahead and disclosure is not forthcoming, will PRG continue to fight for a political solution?" Mr. Bassett replied, "Of course, the disclosure movement will advance even without hearings."
The Mutual UFO Network has designed a new system to capture UFO reports, for displaying data, and to find possible answers. Now they just need to build it. They wish to improve the usability of the reporter UFO experience to gather more data and cleaner data. With better design, they hope to ensure that fewer people abandon their report before finishing. Mufon will also be revising which questions are asked and how. They wish to provide a freely accessible and robust interface to filter, file, search and visualize the data. They state that this will help professional and armchair researchers find patterns, and possibly even answers in the UFO data. Here's a look at their crowdfunding campaign.
Well-documented events that represent flying craft that do not match anything we have in an earthbound arsenal.
And they would come over and do the same maneuvers that we make, except every once in a while one of them goes zip. And you just can't do that in a fighter. I think they were extraterrestrial pilots flying, no doubt about it.
Secret policy was adopted that stated that any information on the matter of extraterrestrials was a matter of national security and therefore classified. Quote,
"Under no circumstances is the general public or public press to learn of the existence of these entities. The official government policy is that such creatures do not exist."
Mufon receives between 700 and 1,000 UFO reports a month from highly credible witnesses, including pilots, policemen, scientists and engineers, as well as many others. Unidentified flying objects do exist. These are objects that, when reported and investigated fully, cannot be explained by our current technology or any known natural phenomenon.
Right now, the system we use to collect and investigate up to 1,000 reports a month was created 8 years ago when I was executive director. It was built using volunteer labor on a budget of $0.
The good news is that when folks Google report a UFO, Mufon is at the top of the search results.
It was revolutionary when we first launched it, but now it is sorely dated.
We lose a lot of people on this page. By improving the experience, we can encourage more people to file reports, thus giving us more data to work with.
It's time to leverage the best design and technology on the planet to create a system that provides a truly global and easily accessible platform for UFO data collection and research, a system that will help us solve the UFO mystery. It's time for a revolution in the UFO field.
It's not just more data that we're going to get, we'll actually get cleaner data as well. By asking the questions more clearly, we're going to get clearer answers. On the flip side, we want to make the experience more intuitive for researchers or anyone that wants to explore the data. We want to offer better search, filter, and sort capabilities to make researching more effective and powerful, and browsing more visual and engaging.
Finally, we want to create a more useful and usable database for our MUFON field investigators. We want to give them the tools to collaborate on cases, find similar cases, and make their expert analysis available to the public along with high-quality journalism on the subject matter.
The biggest job that we are raising money for is for the development. We need to build this new global database and build it right. We want it fast, bug-free, fully optimized to all devices, and ultra-secure against potential threats. We know that you get what you pay for, and we cannot build this using volunteer labor.
As far as development costs are concerned, we've received several estimates and had a lot of conversations with talented web development houses. We've really tried to do our homework to figure out exactly how much this project is going to cost.
Thank you in advance for your support of this ambitious project. A new global UFO database and website built for you, the UFO follower, investigator, and researcher. Let's do this together.
So anything we can do to help understand where these aerodynamically sophisticated vessels are coming from and who they're piloted by is really something that will contribute to the betterment of mankind. We can't do this kind of research without your support and without your help.
The Mutual UFO Network now wants to upgrade its website for easier access to its thousands of cases from the past and present and going forward into the future. So please help MUFON get this new website online soon.
I want you all to think about what a new UFO database would do for MUFON and the future of my son, Olivier. So don't hesitate and support MUFON's Kickstarter program.
We saw something crash in the woods.
What the hell?
This is definitely not an airplane.
Get in the car!
Aliens. I should have known. Ever since Roswell, the U.S. government has had a treaty with the
In the film Extraterrestrial, actress Brittany Allen plays a fully realized character inside of an epic alien invasion story. Even though the genre-bending film steers just enough away from typical horror tropes, Allen as April is the film's highlight. Stuck in a series of crossroads in her life, April is led on a trip by her boyfriend Freddie Strummer of Harry Potter fame and their group of friends to a cabin she spent her childhood summers in. While she hopes to reminisce and create new memories, the group of 20-somethings deal with a terrifying encounter not of this world. Allen recently spoke with AM New York about Extraterrestrial. Did this film change your mind about the existence of aliens? She was asked. I've always been open to that possibility. There's so little that we know of the universe and what's beyond, To say definitively that there's not other life out there seems naive. I've talked to people who had experiences that they felt or saw something. I'd be curious within my lifetime if that would ever become common knowledge. Brittany Allen wasn't the only actress to bring up ET contact during November. The actress Shirley Maclaine claims to have seen numerous UFOs in her time. One famous day, a friend of mine was sitting in my hot tub out there, and 3 UFOs came over and hovered for about 10 minutes, she says. They are definitely there, the only question is why. Maclaine, who now features in the hit British period drama Downton Abbey, added that she's keen to share her knowledge of UFOs with U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. She also states that actor-turned-politician, Ronald Reagan, spotted a UFO in the 1950s and had a close encounter of the third kind. She states that an extraterrestrial being told him to switch careers. According to Maclaine, Reagan confided in I Love Lucy star Lucille Ball about the eerie encounter, which took place when he was on his way to a party in Los Angeles with his wife Nancy.
UFO Today is back. Dead Good Publishing Limited, the creators of the leading paranormal magazine Haunted, have joined forces with worldwide UFO expert Philip Mantle. They have created a magazine that has been described as a new breed of UFO magazine, mixing classic and contemporary articles from an array of writing talent. Issue 3 sees a continuing balance of quality features and design. UFO Today has been written, designed and published for anyone who has an interest in aliens and UFOs, specifically created so that it can be enjoyed by everyone who loves reading about extraterrestrial activity. Issue 3 includes The Daily Saucer, The Eye and Air Letters and the Case for the UFO, 1974 UFO Crash on the Tex-Mex Border, The Alien Abduction of Rosalind Reynolds, Close Encounters in Rendlesham Forest and the Alien Autopsy Film Rises Once More. Details are on screen.
Here at News 9, we've captured a few unusual objects on video, so we wanted to investigate further to see what it is. Could it be something mysterious living in the sky? One man thinks so, but you decide.
There is a phenomenon that exists among us.
Jose Escamilla says he discovered this phenomenon 20 years ago.
They swim through the air like fish.
When he saw a pattern of strange objects on some photographs.
At first I thought they were insects, birds, close to the lens of the camera.
But at such a high shutter speed, he said that wasn't possible.
We think it's a living entity of some kind. It does have behavior of being alive.
He calls them rods, measuring 1 to 6 feet long, with a cylinder body and multiple sets of wings. Skeptics, however, don't buy it.
Some people are calling flying rods.
Mark Zimmerman teaches photography at the University of Central Oklahoma. He talked about rods in class after a student captured something unusual.
People in class joke around about like UFOs or anything, but most likely it was probably like a bug or a plane or something.
I just think there's some sort of scientific answer for things like this.
So he took several photographs at different exposure times, capturing something similar to a rod, but instead a moth.
And the shutter speed is going to be so long that you're going to capture that movement of light.
Escamilla viewed Eric's photograph and agrees in this case it's not a rod.
Each object has its certain pattern of flight. You can tell what an insect looks like, you can tell what a bird looks like, a dragonfly, and a rod is a rod.
Rods captured around the world in the sky and underwater, even here at News 9.
Reporting in southeast Oklahoma City, Adriana Ivashinsky, News 9.
In this report, Escamilla says it's probably just a blurred insect. However, in this tornado footage taken from Sky News 9 in 1999...
Those rods are huge, man. That one white rod that comes out of the top of the cloud, that cloud front was 10 miles away from the helicopter. That thing must have been 100 feet length.
So are rods real and exist among us? Strange living things that appear and disappear in the blink of an eye?
You can believe what you want or disbelieve, but the fact is these things are here.
Escamilla says technology has improved the documentation of rods, where he's now able to capture them using infrared filters.
I think it was watching us at that point. It was terrifying. I was hiding behind the curtain right now at this point.
John Edwards says his heart started pounding in his chest as he watched the uncanny agility of a UFO. From his uptown apartment window, he and his girlfriend saw this bright object zip over the city and swoosh near the refinery.
And at that point, I almost felt like whatever it was knew I was watching with my camera. It was a really weird, creepy feeling, but it circled around at that point and came all the way back and went across the street basically and watched us through the window.
Edwards says it felt like an invasion of privacy, and he says it looked dangerous. The most likely explanation is that it was a drone, perhaps flown by someone nearby. As drones come down in price, they're becoming more popular with amateurs across the country, and that has Canada's Transport Minister advising they need to be flown safely.
When you fly an unmanned aircraft and you put people's safety at risk, it is against the law.
Ottawa advises hobbyists not to fly at night, steer clear of airports and other restricted airspace, and avoid populated areas. Meanwhile, demand for commercial drones is growing. Here in New Brunswick's potato fields, McCain's is using them to monitor crops. It's a multi-million-dollar partnership involving Reston Aerospace in Fredericton.
That can give the operator information on crop health that'll help them optimize their production.
We're going to watch it for a few seconds.
Back in St. John, Edwards returns to his homemade video, still wondering for sure what he and his girlfriend filmed and then chased.
It disappeared down behind the houses as I was watching it, and at that point we got in the car and we drove and we went looking for it and we couldn't find it, and we actually ended up driving all the way to the airport looking for it again.
Rachel Cave, CBC News, St. John.
County, there was an extra special party tonight. You could call it Out of This World, all to celebrate the 40th anniversary of a possible UFO sighting in Carbondale.
Newswatch 16's Sarah Bynofsky reports.
Inside the Best Western Pioneer Plaza in Carbondale, there was an extra special extraterrestrial party, and some dressed up for the occasion.
Well, this was an impulse. This was to keep the Lauren going and a little humor.
The celebration was for the 40th anniversary of a reported UFO sighting in Carbondale. In 1974, there was a report of a glowing, unidentified object falling into a pond in the area. Take a look at some of the newspaper headlines from that time. We spoke with one man whose friend was among those at the scene 40 years ago.
I never saw anything, but we would sit there for hours looking for UFOs allegedly happening here or sighting there. But he took place in this particular extravaganza because he stayed there all night. I didn't stay with him. I went home that night, but he did stay.
Some at the party here were silly about it all.
How do I like Carbondale? I love the coal. I love the people. I love myself.
Others say they believe the story.
Something significant happened in Carbondale. 80% of the population that were over the age of 55, and here in Carbondale at the time, 40 years ago, they're not buying the official story.
Whether they were believers or not, people we found partying here say it was a great community event.
Well, I think it's a great event for the town. It's a good way to bring the community together and just enjoy some food and some laughs and some friends. And it's just really great that we're pulling together. It's about time. Carbondale had a really awesome reputation, and I think that this party's going to do it.
Sarah Bynofsky, Newswatch 16, Carbondale.
This year at the 2014 International UFO Congress, Stephen Bassett was given the Researcher of the Year award for his success with the Citizen Hearing on
25 years to the day since a live interview with a shadowy guy named Dennis changed everything for America's most secret military base.
Dennis is a term used in ufology to describe a physical object placed in someone's body after they have been abducted by aliens. Claimed capabilities of the implants
Popular
range.
TV show Fact or Faked Paranormal Files follows a team of investigators who review various photographs and viral videos of alleged paranormal
William
activity.
Shatner once stated, "There is no doubt there is life out there. The mathematics of it lead you to that absolute conclusion. In my mind there
Mars
is no..."
colonists have just had their hopes and dreams dashed. The Netherlands-based non-profit Mars One, which aims to establish a red planet settlement.
International UFO Congress is returning to Fountain Hills, Arizona on February the 18th, 2015. It is the largest
Science
annual...
is gearing up for their annual A We Alone Alien Theme Week, which kicks off on July 21st. It will be followed by the premiere of Season 5 of Through the World.
This month I'm introducing a new segment to the show to cover viewers' UFO events. If you have a conference, crop circle trip or skywatch.
John Ronson has recently described his experience of UFO hunting in Nevada with Robbie Williams and Snoop Dogg's Playing. The journalist and documentary
This week
maker.
I spoke to a delightful lady by the name of Sandra Shufflebottom. Now Sandra hosts the unedited audio experience radio show on with Ensure FM 97.2.
Mysterious strange signs suddenly started popping up in East Aurora in the United States. Nobody seems to know where they came from.
Mid-August saw the release of 25 years of UFO data for sightings over Canadian airspace. Ufology Research has released the results of its 25-year-long study of Canadian UFO.
21st of June until the 31st of August, 2014, the Wiltshire Museum in Devizes is presenting Exploring the Mystery and Beauty of Crop Circles.
We're covering The Hair, a newly formed UFO group from Manchester. Manchester has been experiencing a UFO threat.
You know, on December 4, 2013, the U.S. Congress House Committee on Science, Space and Technology held a hearing titled Astrobiology, Search for Biosignatures in Our
Last
Solar
week I
System.
had the pleasure of chatting with members of the UFO Contact Group, and they have graciously permitted me to include the interview on this month's episode.
The other thing is that
Out of nowhere, the interview suddenly turned into all things paranormal, including extraterrestrial life and UFOs. Megan Fox believes in aliens and can't understand why others don't.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the episode and this year's review covering some of the stories involved. As I said at the beginning of the show, this is the last episode of Season 3 for 2014. Volume 3 covering all UFO sightings within the webcast for the season will be available before the end of the year. Series 4 should start at the end of February 2015. New Max UFO News blog posts will commence the first week of February 2015. There will be, however, some activity on the news blog during this time, mainly to update the blog sidebar, or if any really important UFO items come to light. I'd like to say thank you at this time to all those who have taken part within this year's season. Well, that's all for this year, and as always, from both Alice and myself, thanks for watching.
I know a lot of us out there have amazing stories, and we need to share them. We really need to share them at this time, because now is the time. By you sharing your stories, it really stimulates and causes ripples beyond what we can see, and it changes the discussion over time, and ultimately will lead to one thing. It will lead to everyone being on one accord, on one same page.